welcome to cEDH Budget Brews. I'm Tim.
And I'm Brandon.
Hi, Brandon. How you doing, boss?
I'm alive and well. How are you doing?
I'm here, man. I'm here, just trudging along. You know what I mean? It's been a
Sure.
long day.
I feel that. I feel that.
I wanted to sit down with you tonight and go over another beginner cEDH meta buster. And tonight, I wanted to cover a mono black deck, something really fast that's actually been doing pretty well on the Playing with Power, like during their leagues. And that's Crick. So the list that we're using is by Fonzie. Fonzie actually does really well with this list. Has had very good results in the Playing with Power leagues that they do. And a lot of that is just pure speed. So Crick, for those of you that don't know, is a 2/2 with lifelink and has a 3-pip Phyrexian mana, so that you can pay 1 black or 2 life, and 4 colorless. So it's a total CMC of 7. Most of the time you pay 4 and 6 life to play him. And it has 2 abilities. The first one is that all black mana costs and all black activated or triggered abilities you can pay 2 life for. So essentially gives all of your activated abilities, all your triggered abilities, all your mana, all your costs, and all your spells Phyrexian black mana, is like any black pips. So where you get gated is on your colorless mana, as opposed to on your colored mana, which is it's the other way around, essentially. And then Crick gets a +1/+1 counter each time you play a black spell. And that's every time you cast a black spell, not just, play it. So Crick can actually kind of grow to help you get your life back relatively quickly. I have seen Crick grow to be like a 7/7 on turn 3 and just get most of its, it'll just start attacking and get its life back. But that's not really what Crick's here for. Crick is really here for this. For each black in a cost, pay 2 life rather than pay the mana. That is 90% of why you're playing this commander. And the trick with Crick is speed, 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 speed. You can play Crick on 2 pretty consistently, and you can execute a combo on turn 3 very reliably. You get access to all the black rituals, you get access to all the black tutors, and all the black rituals. You get ad nauseum. You can play Peer in the Abyss. Not all the lists do. So this deck is just very tutor dense. I mean, it's a cEDH deck playing Diabolic Tutor. That's deep. I mean, how many tutors in mono black do you have to play before you're playing Diabolic Tutor and Mastermind's Acquisition? So this deck is all about one thing, and that's going and just going and just. So one of the most common ways that Crick will leverage a win is by using Buried Alive. Buried Alive, for those of you who don't know, is a sorcery for 1 black, 2 colorless. So you can pay 2 life and 2 colorless. And then you search your library for 3 creature cards and you put them in your graveyard. Okay? So if you can cast Buried Alive, all you need is 1 reanimation effect, and you can assemble one of 2 piles. The most common pile is Chainer, Dimir Houseguard, and Grey Merchant of Asphodel. So you cast Buried Alive, and then you reanimate Chainer. You're going to pay 6 for the 3 black pips, plus the 3 life for the ability, so that's 9 life total. And then you're going to reanimate Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Okay? If you have Crick, Chainer, and the Grey Merchant, you will gain life equal to your devotion from each player. Your devotion of black at that point will be 7, so you'll gain 21 life. All right. Next, you pay another 9 out of that 21, and you reanimate the Dimir Houseguard. Okay. The Dimir Houseguard is your sack outlet to sack your Gary, and then you pay another 9 life to reanimate Gary again. Now you're dealing 23 damage. 23 instead of, or 24 instead of 21, because you have one additional black pip and 3 opponents. And at that point, general that's 43 damage. That should kill a table. If that doesn't, you just complete the loop again, because you're gonna net life every time you do an iteration of that. Alternatively, if you don't have a reanimation effect, you can actually bury alive the same pile of Chainer, Gary, Grey Merchant, and the Dimmer House Guard, and then you can just use the Necrotic Ooze to assemble the same combo. And that's kind of a backup line, like if you just happen to have the ooze as versus the like reanimation effect, or maybe you're a little bit lower on life, is another option. So there is that. Another thing you can do is you can also use the ooze with and then bin as Modius, and then you can just pay 6 life and draw 7 cards. So like that's pretty busted. Same thing you can do with like Villas and the ooze, and then you can also use like the Blood Celebrant to pay 3 life to make a black mana, which allows you to just fuel manual Stormlines. One thing I do want to make of note. So here's the thing with Crick. It's got a pretty high ceiling as far as like getting everything kind of down. And then it's got a pretty steep curve. But once you learn it, you'll really, like, you can really pick up games, like, if you know your lines. And this deck is blazing fast. Like, I mean, just, like, real fast. Like, for example, this card is pretty innocuous. You probably were wondering why this is in the list. There's actually a whole line where you play this, and then you pay the mana to transfigure it. Which transfigure is you sack it, and then you search your library for a creature with the same CMC. So its CMC is 4, and it allows you to get Balthor, which will allow you to reanimate all of the black creatures in your graveyard. So there's this whole like Vial and Tumor line. It's listed in the primer. It's pretty in depth, and it's one of the more backup lines. Like, I'm sure Fonzie probably uses it pretty significantly, but I haven't seen it executed a ton. This is mostly a deck that I've played against, and I've always been really impressed with just how an accomplished pilot can handle themselves and how fast this deck is. You get access to all of the good black rituals, Calling of the Week, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual. You can leverage Sacrifice really well. You got Corpse Dance loops. Again, all of this stuff is listed in the primer. We could be here talking forever with all these different layered combos because there's a lot of them, and I really I don't feel I'll do them justice. But if you're winning a deck that is super fast, is just really explosive, like, rewards piloting skill a lot. And I do mean a lot. Like, you're going to have to do your homework because the curve on this deck is pretty steep, at least as far as like figuring out how to pilot it effectively. But once you get that, you will be rewarded. And if people stumble, you will punish them. Guaranteed. And there's a lot of combos that I'm not even mentioning just because they're not the super main lines. This video is more of just kind of like an introductory and kind of to give you the basics and kind of reasons why to play it. The weakness of this deck, now that there's more of kind of the meta is getting a little bit staxier, you will start seeing more Yasharns running around, and Yasharn hurts this deck like hardcore. And it can answer it, but it just like a lot of the rule of laws, it can play around them, but it does hinder it. And while the main combos to win dance around it, being able to get to that point can be kind of a hindrance through a heavy stacks meta, because it slows down like, if you're in a turbo Nas meta, you can actually legitimately race them. But in a heavy stacks hate bear meta, you tend to be the target because you are like, if you can't get under them, if they are able to land early stacks pieces against you that stumble you, you do sometimes have a hard time interacting with those. So that is like a downside and something to be wary of. So I do think that if you're willing to try something that is going to reward skill, I definitely think you should give it a whirl. Do we have any questions, Brandon?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say that the number of layers and layers and layers of win cons, the only other deck I've seen like this is cEDH, where it's just there's always an answer, there's always a way to win, there's always something you can do. There's
There's always a
never a
pivot.
time where you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, seeing that in a mono black deck is kind of baffling because I was under the impression that, I mean, this is me being a little biased, but cEDH was like the only deck that's always got something. And now that you've opened my eyes a little bit more, it's incredible to see that this mono black commander that I personally love, I love playing Keurig, is also extremely versatile. Because even if you can't afford or you don't want to include some of these things, you still have ways and lines and lines and lines of winning.
Well, the basic. So the thing with Crick is that the basic combo package, like the Buried Alive, the Chainer's like $15, Ooze is like $5, Gary's dirt cheap, Dimir
Yeah,
Houseguard is dirt cheap. You know, the Osmodius is cheap, Villas is cheap. Like Villas is 12. I mean, it's not insignificant. You get the Balthor is like still it's about $15. The Blood Celebrant, like all of the cards in this are not super expensive, at least as far as like the WinCon packages. Where you
mm-hmm.
start running into the money is that this deck is playing things like Imperial Seal. This deck is
Right.
playing things like Diabolic Intent, and it is running. You know what I mean? Like some of
Yeah,
the tutor package can be a
pricey.
little bit of a challenge, and the fast mana, obviously. But like it'll budgetize decently, and the core combo package is not super cost prohibitive. And you can just do things like not run Tainted Pact, and then you don't have to worry about a Tainted Pact mana base. You just run a bunch of swamps. Like I'm
Right.
not even going to get into the lands because some of the lands are kind of expensive, but they're not. They're for that last 5% of performance improvement. Like
Yeah,
to
for
go from
sure.
like a casual crick to like a tuned crick is not super cost prohibitive, I guess is what I'm getting at. But again, I just think it's a neat deck that's kind of outside of the box and does reward play skill quite a bit. So with that, I think we should get kind of wrapping it up for the day. If you got any comments, leave them below. If you want to support us, check out our Patreon, which will be in the description, as well as links to this deck list and any other resources we have. One thing I do want to note, if you do want to watch Fonzie pilot this deck, he has appeared in several Playing with Power videos. I think there's at least 2 that I know of. I believe there's probably more. I just am not super versed on gameplay videos at this point. And if we will try to find 1 or 2 of those, and we'll leave those in the description also. So everybody have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.